The narrative is that Georgia isn't the same team from last year. Obviously, we're watching Sony Michel and Nick Chubb do what they're doing for the Patriots and Browns, respectively. So that might just be as obvious as it sounds. However, let's get to the granular level. Georgia's not the same team that almost took Alabama down in the national championship game last year, correct?
They're not, Rich, but when you start looking at Elijah Holyfield and DeAndre Swift's numbers, and once they get through this game and whatever bowl game, you're going to find out that it's pretty similar, eerily similar to what Nick and Sony did a year ago. They're not as well known because this is their first year really being the two stars in the backfield. But I think Georgia's ground game is just as healthy as it was this time last year. They're number one in the SEC, 260 yards a game. If Alabama keeps those two to say 150 instead of 260, I think they're playing in to the hands of Alabama's defense. Alabama's defense is getting better. Georgia is getting better. Both teams are better than they were 2 months ago. Georgia lost LSU badly. I think had they stayed with the running attack, I don't think they would have lost that game. And I think if they played LSU 10 times, they'd win 8 of them. We could conceivably have 2 undefeated teams. That would have been great, but we'll still settle for number one.
Yeah, I'm sure.
4.
Yeah,
I think that'll rate.
Well, we saw last night in Thursday Night Football, Brad, that a front seven that can get after it, and a back end of a defense that can plaster with the front seven getting after it, can derail a high flying offense with a quarterback that is red hot. Now, obviously, Drew Brees has more experience under his belt than Tua. I'm wondering if Georgia has the game plan with the running game you just discussed and the defense to try and shock in the same manner that the Cowboys just did last night.
That is a perfect comparison. If there was a blueprint, that's the thing with Tua as well, just like Drew last night. They got pressure. He doesn't like pressure in his face up the middle. Drew doesn't either because he's 6 feet tall or whatever. Tua is the same size. They don't like to have to look over those big guys. And, Cowboys played great last night on defense. If Georgia had the kind of guys on their side of the ball that the Cowboys had, that would be the perfect blueprint because Tua doesn't like guys around his knees. He doesn't like guys in his face. The perimeter pressure doesn't bug him that much, but when he's got to step up in the pocket and make the throws that he makes, he gets a little bit uncomfortable. Now, does Georgia have those guys? They haven't had good success sacking the quarterback this year. They had 4 against Kentucky. I think that was their season high. They would love to have, if Georgia had the front 4 that Alabama has, then you would be going, this is going to be a problem for Alabama's offense. Unfortunately, they don't have the same kind of guys. So if they can get some kind of pressure up the middle, they got DeAndre Baker on the back end that can maybe take away half the field, but you also got 5 receivers that I think are all high draft choices, including Irv Smith for Alabama. Those cats are unbelievable receivers, and you can't cover them all.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.